Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Desert Fox coming at you with a Broken Arrow meta, recon range, and rapid deployment. Let's get it.
Maverick, range control. Green range is confirmed. I don't see an event scheduled for you, sir.
Well, I'm going anyway.
Nice.
Recon.
Whiplash, this is Blackbeard. I have positive control of the Raven.
They can see you, but you cannot see them. Love it. So guys, as always, thank you guys for joining us on the channel. You guys know that we are super geeked about Broken Arrow. It is coming out on Monday. That's this month, the 16th. So the first real part about the channel that we want to bring out to you is Recon. It's part of our meta to do recon, range, and rapid deployment, or triple RD. I see a lot of channels talk about strategies, but nothing really beats triple RD, and we'll explain why. As you can see, they've got this helicopter that is currently engaging these artillery pieces, as well as there is a surface-to-air missile in the background, and they're currently engaging this. But the way this was set up originally was that Special Forces Ranger Recon right there. So because they can see the battlefield, but the enemy can't see them, they're able to do some engagement. The next major component of Recon would be a UAV, right? Or drone of some sort. Let's get it.
Look up. Go ahead, look up. You see the drone? No? That's all right, because the drone sees you. Sees your face.
The drone sees you, but you cannot see the drone. And one of the specialities in the US deck actually has that aspect to it, where it's a stealth drone. So as long as you don't get too close, you can actually engage the enemy, right? Recon on the enemy, and the enemy not even know you're there. This forepost here is setting up an ambush in the Broken Arrow trailer. So these guys are actually able to set up this convoy on the road, and they can see when to properly time the attack. Now, Recon's good for spotting the enemy, but what happens when you don't want to be spotted? Well, the next aspect of Recon is breaking Recon, which is throwing smoke at your enemy or on your enemy to screen or mask your movement. So fair use for all the content in the background, and fair use for the actual clip there. That was from the movie Fury. Really great movie if you haven't seen it. Basically based on World War II. Now what happened in that was those they were 4 tanks were engaged by a heavy tank called a Tiger. And what they ended up doing to break contact with that enemy tank was throw smoke in his face, as you guys saw, to blind the tank and force it to come out, also giving them, those Sherman tanks, the advantage to later on in the movie dead charge. Now in the background for Broken Arrow, you see these artillery pieces laying smoke down on A. Why are they doing that? Because coming down the road there is a large lime green assault force of, I believe, BMP 2 or 3s with maybe infantry, but the enemy is in clear view of the enemy. So the enemy can't get a good read on those units because why? There's a wall of smoke. In Broken Arrow, I really like that aspect. You can lay smoke down and make it to the way that your enemy can't see you, but you can advance inside of the smoke, launch an attack without them ever really knowing what you're bringing. They have choppers up, they have some aircraft, but they really can't get a shot or a bead on those infantry fighting vehicles that are coming down the road. It's really beautiful. On point A, now they're actually engaging, taking some casualties, but the reality is if you're going to engage with Recon or without Recon, you probably, if you're going to launch an attack, it needs to be with smoke, right? So if you're able to view the enemy, that's going to be wonders for you, as opposed to not being able to see what you're hitting. So the next aspect of the triple RD, or the strategy, is range. Once you have recon on your opponent, you definitely need to exploit that recon by striking behind the enemy lines with longer range units, kind of like artillery, right? In this clip here, you see that the enemy has clustered a lot of his artillery and air pieces around a supply base, making it susceptible for an artillery attack. That artillery attack is very, very successful, partly because of the recon. This clip does come from a really good YouTuber named Vulcan Gaming. He is I would say one of the premier guys on the YouTube space for RTS, and definitely somebody you should check out. So for fair use, we wanted to showcase some of his clips in the background. We also have that other clip with the artillery pieces that were called in. This is the gameplay for that, but what you'll notice here is the score currently is about 1-1, and the destruction score is around the same. But down there, that lime green unit with the smoke trails, that right there, guys, is a Smirch. It's using its long range. As you can see how far on the battlefield it can extend those shells to hit targets out there to the right of the C point. Coming in at the top part of your screen, there's a B1 Lancer with contrails on missiles. Those missiles are actually being used as range as well. So whether you use artillery pieces, Smirch, or long-range missiles, use range to your advantage. If you can see the enemy and hit the enemy, and the enemy can't see you and doesn't have the range to hit you, 9 times out of 10, that is already the battle there. So we definitely want to take use of all of our long range units. Here's an example of that in this clip.
We are cut off. Copy, we are cut off.
So in the last clip there, what we noticed was there was an American unit that was cut off. He kept radioing, "Hey, I'm cut off, I'm cut off." He called in for artillery support. Now the artillery guys are in the back shooting off their rounds, supporting the guys in the front. And that's exactly, you can do the same thing in Broken Arrow. You'll see here, one of the range units is actually engaging the Iskander. That's a ballistic missile. It's shooting up in the air. He's kind of moved off screen there. But I'd rather use whether it's artillery or MLRS. Why? Because they cannot get intercepted. For you to use an Iskander, which is a ranged weapon in Broken Arrow, you need to basically have control of the enemy's AA, either whether through suppression of enemy air defense or just taking them out with some sort of long-range artillery. Without it, your Iskanders, even though they're very powerful, will get intercepted by things like S300s, S400s, Patriots, or any other type of AA that can intercept these long-range missiles. Now, while we're showcasing this Broken Arrow clip, as you can see in the background, the player in question, and shout out to him, this is the Armchair General, better known as Nice Guy, really good player, what I would consider one of the premier guys to watch, along with myself. But this young man, I would say he's testing these Topazes. These Topazes are heavy mortar artillery, and so he surmised in the video that if I bring a lot of them in to break the stalemate, I'm going to see if I can just use this artillery, fire, move, and fire. Okay, now you would think, well, if it's working so well, why would I need to move? Great question. If you, and this is really for my newer players, if you guys already kind of know the answer to this, go ahead and put it in the comments. But the crazy part is these artillery pieces can get counter batteried or shot at by other long range units like artillery pieces, Iskanders, MLRS, you name it. So we want to maximize the range, the recon, to great effect and keep our guys in the fight. So you'll see him select there for a targeting order to hit those units on F. They're exposed, they can see them, but they're kind of dug in. These heavy mortars, I think he has 5 or 6 of them, are going to engage, and then as soon while those rounds are in flight, because there's so many of them, He just took those guys out the census there. He's going to automatically move them. So he engaged, he's going to automatically move them. And then you'll see, yeah, the battle's raging on around, but because these units are behind the line, they're really not going to get in. They're not kind of capable of getting engaged unless the enemy sneaks up on those units and destroys them, or they try to engage them with their other long range units. Now, air power might be able to sneak behind the lines or quickly get back there if you don't have any AA. You got to watch out for that. You also have to be concerned about really the enemy's other ranged units, their artillery pieces. So keep that in mind. He's constantly moving them and microing them to the left and to the right after he engages. See, he sees a juicy target. There's some supplies with a tank currently right there. He's about to engage that. And as he engages it, right, he's also keeping in mind that, hey, as soon as I launch this, and if it gets annoying to the enemy, they're gonna want to target me for a counter battery. I believe that comes in here soon. Also, another ranged unit that people kind of forget about is AA. Anti-air, or AA, is really good because they can engage flying meatballs, also known as choppers or aircraft, and they can do it very effectively at range. These are going to be your Patriots, your S-300s, and your S-400s. These units have immaculate range against air units. So if you have an air unit that can see the enemy's airspace, you can keep your aircraft behind your lines and allow your AA pieces to take out the enemy's air units as they come into range. It is a really effective strategy for making sure that you get the edge on the enemy. As you can see here in the video, he's continuing to launch, take out one unit, and move his units. Now the score, even though the red team on the scoreboard has 7-1, the destruction score, they're absolutely pulling away. It's a combination of them attacking the ground units with these artillery pieces and them being very effective in the air, taking out enemy air units, as you'll see right there. So the more air units that the enemy launches, and air units are relatively expensive, also softening up the enemy for an attack. Now you see right there, the enemy's using their cluster to try to attack his topazes. He's scooting them away. So as he engages, he moves away from the spot he just fired so that the enemy doesn't destroy that long range unit. I cannot stress that enough. The way I think about the meta is this: if you can see your enemy and your enemy can't see you, you definitely have an advantage right there, right? Now, let's say, for example, you can see your enemy and your enemy can see you, but you outrange your enemy, right? So you might think, well, that's cool and all, but eventually I'll just get in range. Well, not exactly. If it's a tank on tank engagement, right, your tank will engage the other individual's tank and outrange them, hypothetically, right? That shell doesn't just go off into infinity. You're going to inflict damage either on the fire control system, on the optic system. You might even get a mobility hit on the track, keeping the enemy from moving. So that's actually one of the aspects in the game that you can actually have. So range is really, really critical, right? Whether it's javelins is another really good unit. Man pads, which is man portable anti-air. You also have, like I was saying, AA, the SAMs, the Patriots, the S-300s, which is a really good unit. But when you incorporate the S-400s, amazing. Now you just saw there those lime green units, the Iskanders launch. There was no enemy AA up, and they did amazing damage at range, right? So the persistent bombardment campaign is actually having a really effective effect on the red team and taking out their units. You can see now that even though they pulled away on the scoreboard, it's really because they have more flags, but the destruction score is definitely going to the blue, slipping away there. So that's definitely something to watch. We'd like to watch other people's gameplay because we can't necessarily play the game, but once we get into the game on Monday, I'll be able to show you guys these things firsthand in action. Of course, we have to play the tutorial, maybe some single player to kind of get the aspect, but rapid deployment is next. Let's watch this clip.
Miles out, dropping a nap in the earth.
All right, so rapid deployment, right? Remember, keep it in mind, we're just basically talking about the meta. The meta is recon, range, rapid deployment. So triple RD, recon, range, rapid deployment. What is rapid deployment? Rapid deployment is your ability after an engagement or before an engagement to get your guys, whether it be your infantry and tanks, supplies, or reinforcements to the fight quickly before, during, or after an engagement. So keep in mind, this is like a logical way of looking at it. If, let's say, I can see the enemy can see me, then I can hit the enemy and the enemy can hit me, right, at the same range. What's going to happen? Well, either we fight to a Pyrrhic victory, right, fight each other to oblivion, number one, or number two, right, we fall back and try to rest and recover or resupply, get our guys fixed up. Whoever can do that part the fastest is going to be able to recover and re-engage an injured opponent. So that's why rapid deployment is the next major part of a solid meta, right? Tactics is one thing, knowing which units can take out which units, knowing what strategy works under what environment. Those are all tactics, but this is meta. And because of the meta, we want to, no matter which RTS you're playing, if you want to be a better player, most of the time we're talking about these three aspects. Can I find my enemy before my enemy finds me? Do I have the right units to outrange my enemy? And can I rapidly deploy and get my guys in and out of danger as fast as possible? You see here, this little bird is actually coming to pick up this pilot. That pilot was shot down, but because this deck that he has is specifically designed for rapid deployment. It's a striker and a special forces deck. The special forces deck has a lot of choppers, and the striker deck has a lot of wheeled units, right? A lot of striker javelin units, and they can bring those in. You'll also see here that those recon units that we showed at the beginning part, those guys were brought in with this Silent Hawk. So they're calling them in now. He's pulling a couple units. And just to kind of go back to what I was saying, rapid deployment, recon, and range can be used in all aspects of the game. Rapid deployment doesn't just have to be at the beginning. You can rapidly deploy on the flanks. You can rapidly deploy to cover your center, and you could rapidly deploy supplies. If you can get supplies to your guys faster than the opponent, guess who's going to win that fight? Also, this game is really good because now they've kind of buffed the infantry. So if you can constantly rush infantry into the fight, you're going to be able to trade way more effectively than your opponent. You got to think, recon units might be 110 points. I think that's like the maximum I've seen a recon guy go for. If you're knocking out any armored vehicle in an air unit, you're talking about anything from 250 to almost 400, and in some cases 1,000 points. So if you can take out this unit, right, infantry is going to trade extremely well for that. Low cost to trade for a higher cost unit. The more of those units you can bring to the fight, the better. So as we're looking at the gameplay here, we got these two striker units. They're going to drop off here, and I like what the player does here. He drops them off in the forest and he double backs his striker javelins to make up a new base of fire at sea to kind of cover them. So we'll see this gameplay play out right now. See, he's moving his, he's giving advanced orders for his javelin units to maneuver. Meanwhile, his infantry is popping that BRDM2. So they're maneuvering on the enemy, they're engaging the enemy with speed, and they're not really giving him a lot of time to rest on the assault while he maneuvers his forces to maybe probe for weakness. Here, Silent Hawk is another great tool for rapid deployment. It's fast, it's stealthy, right? It doesn't have any weapons, so it won't give away its position. And he does exactly what I would probably do in the gameplay. He's got these super cool recon units, these 2-man teams, and 6-man team, but super stealthy, the STT, as well as the Ranger Recon. Once he lands these guys are basically going to be extremely well hidden unless the enemy like flies right over them. So that's something to keep in mind with that. Rapid deployment is just really a matter of speed. Can I get my guys to where they need to be fast enough to overwhelm my opponent? If we're all things considered equal, I can see him, he can see me. We have the same range. It does equal, all things being considered, that I would use my resupply advantage of speed or my ability to get reinforcements into the engagement quicker, whether it be air units or whether it be chopper units. So rapid deployment is really a lot more about speed. Anytime you can get overwhelming fire on your opponent, overwhelming reinforcements, overwhelming supplies to heal your damaged units, that is the aspect. Again, if you could see them, they can see you. You guys have the same range, and both you damage, both you pull back. Well, who's going to win the fight? Who's going to win the next engagement? The person who can get healed up and come back to the battlefield, the person who can get reinforcements to the battlefield faster, or the person that can bring another aspect or an attack on the enemy quicker, right? Not let him rest, not let him recover, right? I'm not telling you guys necessarily how to play. I'm telling you necessarily when people say, hey, I want to get better at any RTS game, it literally is these three things that they're talking about. I need to get better at being able to find my opponent before my opponent finds me, or be able to do damage to my opponent where he can't do damage to me. And if we both take damage, or even if I don't take damage, can I engage my opponent quick enough to where he can't even do damage to me? Now that right there is really, really, really effective. When you consider like smaller forces being able to engage larger forces, most of the time it's being able to move faster and more efficient than the opponents. Especially when you think, if you watch any breakdowns of Napoleon's campaign, a lot of times in a lot of Napoleon's campaigns, overall army to army, he was outnumbered. But he had smaller, more mobile, faster units that were able to catch up in mass to smaller parts of the enemy. So locally, his units a lot of times outnumbered the enemy, whereas overall, big scheme, they outnumbered him. That's how he was able to win so many campaigns. And even today, we follow his corps system where each like smaller units can operate independent of the larger counterparts, and that way they can move quicker and get into the fight faster, or spread apart quickly and dissipate, so the bigger, slower guy can't catch up. You know what I'm saying? Here in the gameplay, we see this F-16 engage this tank. Now that's another good way if the enemy doesn't have AA to quickly respond to a problem. But like I said, you have a flying meatball, right? Air units like helicopters, aircraft shouldn't be a stopgap for deficiencies in gameplay. You need to get good at being able to recon, see what's coming down the road. You need to get good at seeing what the enemy is bringing potentially to engage your units. That is the first aspect. The next aspect is once I see the enemy, he doesn't see me, then I can engage the enemy with long range units, whether it be cruise missiles, artillery, and then from there launch my attack, also breaking the enemy's aspect to see my guys coming with smoke. After that happens, constantly be supplying your guys. Even once they take a position, you should expect a counterattack. So what does it mean? Quickly getting supplies to reinforce your guys faster than the enemy can launch a counterattack. If you think about these things, it'll be good for you. Now these troopers are going to fall back to this building here, and you have that chopper waiting there with supplies. Helicopters are a really good way to get supplies. As long as they have a safe place to land, they can do amazing. Also here you see the Guardian, which is basically an Apache engaging these infantry. Again, another really quick way to bring massive amounts of firepower on a place quickly and then disappear. Now that's of course again if your enemy is not bringing AA. So I cannot stress to you enough with your deployment, whether it be rapid deployment with infantry, rapid deployment with tanks, or air units, you need to be able to engage all threats. If you watch any of my war game Red Dragon, Ashen Shadows mod, or any of my war game Red Dragon videos, you'll see very effectively I like to bring complemented, well-supported units. So I need to be able to engage all threats in some capacity, whether it's air, armor, and infantry units effectively, right? If I don't take AA, that is probably going to be the biggest Achilles heels to the newest players. You need to take AA. So even in this recon clip that we see here, he's got a sniper, but those SCT teams, the guys that look like they have the wings or whatever, those special forces units have man pads. They can engage choppers, right? And they also have some anti-armor capability, I believe, on the snipers. If they don't, well, they're really recon. So if they get into trouble, they're really in a tough spot. That's something that you have to keep in mind as a commander. Hey, am I going to be able to support these guys? If not, really, what is their main job? Their main job is to help me do what? Help me see what's in the enemies coming. Now you can see this entire back line here, but what he can't see is inside that tree line, right? So recon is absolutely important. In his rapid deployment, though, of these little birds, he was able to drop off one micro arrow there because there's still one Ranger Raws inside of that little bird. He's going to have to drop it. So let's say you're getting engaged. I think he fixes this. You can tell your chopper to get out of there at low altitude. If he gets out of there at low altitude, then he's less susceptible to fly up high and the manpad, the enemy's AA unit, cannot get line of sight on his chopper. AE, the next one actually makes it out, which is good. Right. So the blue player is kind of deploying these Ranger Raws right at the moment when they're needed. Now the enemy, the red team, is using that road, but because the blue player doesn't have a major road artery, he's using his choppers as that road artery to get to the spot quickly and reinforce. And those guys are being deployed right at the place where they're needed, right at the point of the enemy's attack to reinforce right where the enemy is attacking. That is really good. That is why I'm showcasing this video. Shout out to Vulcan Gaming, because he did a really good job. Now he's using suppression of enemy air defense to see if he can bring in, I believe, some of his bombing units. He wants to clear the skies there to do that again, and so that he can get a strike on those tanks. Just kind of compounding this ability to quickly get reinforcements in at the point of attack. See those two Raws units making where that battle was at H. Those tanks are kind of falling back to the tree line. Now there's also a Nighthawk that's circling around there, but because again the Nighthawk is a stealth unit, it is like the anti-recon unit of the sky, right? Unless the enemy has units that can see him in the back, it's going to be really hard for them to spot. See how far almost off the map he has that unit, because he doesn't want it to be spotted and potentially shot down. So now as things kind of cool off, he gets his Nighthawk in there and he's going to engage in the spot where those guys are. He's got two, I believe, cluster bombs, really good for dealing with enemy armor. The enemy airplane is just circling around because he cannot see the Nighthawk until it's too late. The Nighthawk gets his weapons off, the enemy sees them, starts shooting at them, but that unit gets out. So guys, thank you so very much for joining me. This is Desert Fox coming at you again, recon, range, and rapid deployment. Catch you in the game. Have a good day. Bye-bye.